was based on.
So Noah,
Like,
at this point, Fargo is pretty well established itself in its own right. Are you competing with yourself at all at this point?
Yeah, I think there's always that element of you know, when you have to tell 10 hours of a story, you have to have 10 hours worth of story, and if you're going to reinvent it every year and say it has to be something completely different, then that's a lot of material to come up with, and that's why we don't try to hit an air date, you know, every year. You got to wait till the story is there. So, you know, I just try not to repeat myself and just invest in where the story wants to take me.
Well, I'm curious. I mean, does every season just sort of come from ashes, or because you interconnect them in very interesting ways?
Yeah, some of that. They all start from a setup. Two men meet in an emergency room, or a woman drives home with a man sticking out of the windshield of her car, and then it's like, oh, that's interesting. Who are they, and who's around them, and what happens next, and you know, and then as you think about that, you think, well, are there any connections, organic connections between these years? Obviously, year 2 was a prequel to the first year. So then with this one, I wanted it to stand on its own 2 feet, and eventually we get to some connections, but the story doesn't hinge on them.
You're taking a lot of really interesting, creative decisions in each season. This one, I think about the animation that was used in the 3rd episode, or Peter and the Wolf in the 4th episode. What does that kind of creative freedom do for you?
Well, I'm always looking to experiment with structure, and you know, there's the story you tell and the way that you tell it, and I do think that each episode has to have its own organizing principle. You know, I did that very noticeably with Legion. I feel like that, you know, and here as well, you want the experience of watching each hour to be unique, but also it has to fit into the larger experience of watching the season. So, you know, that's just the fun of it, is to continue to play with the form.
You bring up Legion, and that brings up the point I wanted to ask you about both of these shows, is that you defy expectations quite well. Can you talk a bit about taking things like an Academy Award-winning movie or a comic book property and doing something that's unexpected?
It's hard to come up with a formula or why it works that way for me. I think it's, I mean, I take these characters seriously, and the exercise of making a show that's completely subjective, as Legion is, to say you have an unreliable narrator, and you're going to experience the world the way he experienced it, creates its own reality, and then the genre allows me to be more whimsical and playful, and then you think, okay, but we don't want it to be silly, it has to be grounded and stressful and dangerous at the same time, and so that becomes the fun of it, is to walk that tightrope, to say there's some very horrifying things each hour and some very funny things, and then how do you sew that all together?
Well, thank you so much.